You mentioned your family, and I know that family is where we can get a lot of support whenever the chips are down. So talk a little bit about that, if you will, brother. Like, how did your family respond to you being injured and the recovery and all of that, and how important was that to you in your recovery?
Absolutely, yeah. So my mom raised me and my siblings as a single mother pretty much our entire lives. And the DOD actually called. My little brother was sitting actually on the couch, technically like the day before, like early in the morning. I think we were 16, 17 hours ahead in Afghanistan, and they're in Northern California. But he's sitting on the couch. My mom's making a breakfast before school, and he goes, "Hey, Mom, like, isn't that where Ty is?" And points to TV, and it says there's a bombing at the gate. And so within that day, in the next, 6 hours of that, she gets a call. The DOD calls her and says, they kept using the term like he's very critically ill, very critically injured. That's what they were saying. And they're like, he's going to be getting transported like over the next day. He's going to be getting transported to Germany to launch school, but like, don't come, stay where you're at. Like, you're going to pass his body in the air. Like, he's going to die. And my mom was like, F that, I'm going, that's my son. And, they were like, they literally straight up told her, she has a voicemail recording of this. They told her like, we can't promise you that we're going to reimburse you. And she was like, I don't fucking care. So she, dropped $7,000 on a flight or flights and flew over there to Germany, met me. And then also like, I died 2 or 3 times there. Flatliner was resuscitated. They brought her in to say goodbye. And then Colonel Graham, who was formerly, I don't know if he still is, but he was formerly the 1st Marine Regiment commander. He was like, "What do you need?" to my mom. And she was like, "You get his best friend here, like right now." And he was Christian Ritter. He was in Victor 1-1. So we were in like sister units pretty much in our regiment. And we always deployed within about 2 months of each other. But I'm the goddaughter to both of his children, or godfather, excuse me, to both of his children. And so they flew him out. They cut him orders, flew him out to meet us at Walter Reed. And they flew me from Germany to there, Germany to Andrews. Andrews drove up to Andrews Air Force Base up to Walter Reed. And he was a rock for her. But my mom was, my biggest advocate the entire time I was in the hospital. I woke up, you asked, like, I think that's what I kind of skimmed over. But you asked, like, when did you come to again or whatever? It was pretty much 4 days. So like once I went down on the 26th, they induced me into a coma, medical sedation, and then they woke me up like 4 days or so afterwards. My mom flew with me on the C-17, like I'm there in the hospital bed on the C-17 as the team's trying to keep me alive, all the flight medics and whatnot, all the way to the U.S. And she's sitting right there, and like there's like a there was an Afghan like mother that was there, and there's like 3 or 4 other beds that are in front of her and like right next to mine, and the hospital bed's on the plane. And so my mom goes over to her, and they're both like kind of crying and stuff, and my mom's like kind of motioning, like pointing to like the beds where her children are, like saying, "Are these your children?" And she's like confirming that. And my mom like points over to me and like, this is my son. And they just like sat the rest of the flight together and like held hands. And there were 3 kids that got wounded in the bombing as well. And we got back, and the DOD, throughout that, there's a lot of battles with the DOD and with the Marine Corps. Certain elements of the Marine Corps, say more like the Wounded Warrior Regiment and whatnot, and things not getting done. And I had some of the most incredible medical providers in the world, but there was like some of the policy too, like, they go, "Hey, it's COVID. Like your friend, you cannot have any visitors at the hospital. Like you cannot have any visitors at all. Like, we don't care that they were your friends and they thought like all my friends, fucking said goodbye to me, like in that moment. And they're like, you can't have anyone." And my mom, stood up to the like nurse director of the hospital, and she's like, "You better let him have like someone here." And, I can't get out of bed. All I can do is like turn my head, and that's it. And I'm like whisper yelling because my vocal cords got damaged from all the sedation and intubation and whatnot. But yeah, she was my advocate. She stayed with me for 6 months or so. Like I was in the hospital for about 4.5, just because of the amount of surgeries and whatnot. And then I got out of the hospital. It was probably, a month or 2 later. And I was like, "Hey, Mom, I love you, but I'm a grown ass man. Like, I need you to go home." But she was there for me, and my siblings came. and it screwed up a lot of their high school and middle school as well. I mean, they came over and they stayed with me. The Yellow Ribbon Fund put them up. And that's like one of those things like where the DoD lacks, unfortunately. Like the Yellow Ribbon Fund is the one, it's an organization outside of the military that put my mom and siblings up in an apartment down the street from Walter Reed. She stayed there as my advocate all through all my medical stuff while I was in the hospital. And, they like kind of to allude, or kind of to answer one of the things that you asked is like, for me, I watched my mom raise three siblings, me and my two siblings as a single mother her whole life. She had me at 19. I watched her go through all of law school. I was a kid. She was pretty much a kid. Like I watched her graduate the bar for the first time, watched her, build her entire practice, file bankruptcy, rebuild her own entire firm after dealing with my biological father and all the things that happened there, and our lives being flipped upside down, and her having every reason to quit and every excuse to give up, and she never did. And so for me, my entire life and in late teenage or early teenage years and whatnot, I was like, well, like I want to go be a Marine, and then it just kind of instilled that foundation in me. Like quitting's never been an option. And I remember I was in the hospital, and I'll kind of leave it on this piece of the family stuff, but I was in the hospital, just gotten out of the ICU into inpatient, and I'm laying in my bed, and like I told him, like I was like, hey, like take me off all my opiates, all my narcotics and stuff, and they're like, we can't do that. And I was like, yes, you fucking can. Like it's my body. I don't want to be on any of that. And our entire family has a history of substance abuse and addiction, and so I just knew, I was like, I don't want to be anywhere near that. And I don't want to have to rely on it.
You don't want to deal with that on top of what you're already dealing with.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. And I see a lot of, not even, obviously it's more than just veterans, but I've seen a lot of wounded guys that struggle with that, and guys and gals that struggle with substance abuse. Same. And just, you kind of, it's a cycle. It's just a cycle of the way that things go, unfortunately. But, and so right when I got out of the ICU, my mom's like, Bud, like you're going to walk again, you're going to hike again, you're going to hunt again, you're going to shoot, you're going to do all the things that you love to do. And I just laughed, and I was like, yeah, I know, Mom, like, you don't got to tell me that. And she just started cracking up, and she's like, yeah, you're definitely my son. And I was just like, yeah, I'm still me, Mom. Like, I know I got all this going on, but it's, for me, it was never an option. And like I said earlier, who I am today is who I was before I got blown up. I've grown in a lot of ways. That's all we can hope for, is that we grow in positive ways. But, I'm proud to say that, one, the Marine Corps shaped me into the man that I'm proud of today. And, it instilled, I chose to go on the path of the Marine Corps because of what I thought I would get out of it. And I got so much more than that. And, knowing everything that happened today, leading up to today, and us having this conversation, if I knew it was going to happen, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. It's enlisting in the United States Marine Corps, and, maybe they'll pay me one day to say this, but it's still to this day the best decision that I've ever made in my life. And there's a lot of shit wrong. There's a lot of things I don't agree with, and there's a lot of things I'll continue to be vocal about. And the Marine Corps definitely doesn't like me saying, and the DoD, the government as a whole, doesn't like me saying, but that's the reality of the way things go. Like I'm going to keep telling the truth and keep trying to push for accountability, and more and above anything else, continue to try and make a positive impact in other people's lives, because we, a lot of us need it. And, I've had plenty of mentors and guides in my life. Like when it's like, I don't know how to do something, whether it's physical or mental, that's what I say is like my one tool for the toolbox is like, when you feel the most alone and down and lost, and, and I think I'm fortunate enough to say, like, I had some hard moments in the hospital, but it was never like something where I like gave up. It was just like, man, it was more of like the having to let go of like, I'll never be able to do my job again. And that was what it was for me, is like getting through that is like, I'll never be able to do that again. And there's no way around that. And that's okay. And I accepted that. And I learned to accept that. And I do today, but I know that the reason I'm here is because I'm meant to impact people's lives in a positive way with, the horrible things, that I've been through. Relatively speaking, I've gone through physically harder things than almost anyone else will go through in their life. And, I'm like, I've never once stopped living my life since getting wounded. I've slowed down a little bit. I'm not going to be, racing anyone on a track anytime soon, but, I still do everything that I love to do and before, and I've done even more since.